football. So, Chris, give me the top three concerns specifically from an X's and O's standpoint, even if you want to pick out players that Tennessee should have leading into the Pitt game.
Well, I think the first thing is, will Tennessee offensively be able to run the football? And I think, are they going to do it with tempo? They probably need to, because I do think that Pitt's defensive line is better than Tennessee's offensive line. And I think what they'll try to do is they'll try to gas their defensive line by running fast tempo. And again, that's what they do. And that's probably the advantage that they have. But this Pitt defensive line is really good. So I think that's key, because running the football kind of controls the pace. They certainly are in a position to be able to get some early points out of the passing game. But I think that's call it a concern or an area where I think they'll be challenged. I think that, to me, being able to block that front is going to be the biggest concern that I would have. In terms of players, I think I'll go back to the defensive line for Pitt. I mean, or I stay with it, because I think that's the real key. They've got really good players. So I'm curious. Now, Tennessee did not run the football well in this game last year, but Jabari Small, if you remember, didn't play in the second half. So I think that's the key. That's the thing that I'm looking for the most. I think defensively, I'm curious to see how Tennessee defends the run. Pitt's going to run it. They're going to try to be physical. So to me, I don't know if I call it concerns, but the most intrigue in the game is the running game, both sides for Tennessee. Can they run it with tempo? Can they line up and run it with power when they have to, if they have to in situations? Can they defend the run of Pittsburgh? Because the only way Pittsburgh stays in this game is if they can control the game offensively with the run game, because they can't match point for Tennessee. Tennessee's too explosive. But if Pitt can take the air out of the ball a little bit and run it and reduce the possessions, what that does not only limits Tennessee's possessions, but it kind of breaks the momentum and the tempo for Tennessee's offense, or any team that runs tempo. So you want to break that tempo. It's kind of like anything else. Like a basketball team, they want to run, get up and down the floor. If you take it up, slow it down to half court, they just get a little antsy. And that's what you want to do against Pittsburgh, against Tennessee if you're Pittsburgh.
Right. So what player are you expecting out of Tennessee to make the biggest impact on this game? Or do you see a player maybe emerging that we haven't really paid a lot of attention to?
I feel like somebody on defense might step up, might be able to make some plays in the front. I think that's going to be key, it could be the interior of the defensive line to slow down the run game, because I'm going back to that. That's going to be key. Offensively, I think it's pretty easy. I think it's quarterback, it's receivers. Those are the guys that are going to make big plays. And then I think the run game with Jabari Small, that's what I'm kind of looking for there. I think the game plan is going to be this for Tennessee: score points early out of the passing game, and try to be a little bit more balanced as the game goes along with the run. But again, a lot of that is you go in with an idea, but what you do and what play you check into, run or pass, and what type of run or pass is all predicated on how the defense plays against you. So you might go in and we want to throw it, and then they're dropping 8. Well, you're running the football then, or vice versa. So I think that that's what Tennessee wants to do. They'll get a lead, because if they get a lead and Pitt has to play from behind, I think they feel like that if Pitt has to throw it, that they feel like they could get some stops, and then they could separate from them. What they've got to do, even if they've got to sell out, is against Pittsburgh's run. Because if Pittsburgh can run it and play their tempo, then Pitt can keep this game close. And it's close, you got a real chance to go on and win it in the fourth quarter.
As far as when you scout a team, do you feel like stepping away from an opening game in which a team was challenged, say West Virginia with Pitt, do you learn more about that team as opposed to a team like Tennessee that played Ball State and really was not pushed at all?
You do, but there's circumstances that contribute to that. So Pitt's got a new offensive coordinator. So you don't have Mark Whipple in there. he's at Nebraska now. So you're looking at Pitt in one game, even though it's against West Virginia. Um, you're looking at Frank Signetti's offense, which that they want to run it a little bit more. That, but you only really got now. Here's the thing, and what I always did is where Frank Signetti's been. What Pat Narduzzi wants to do, so you have an idea what they're going to do, but you don't have much tape on the Frank Signetti offense at Pitt. You got one game, unless you go back a few years with different personnel. Whereas with Tennessee, you don't learn much out of the Ball State game, but you got a whole year of knowing what Josh likes to do. And while some of the personnel has changed, what they're going to try to do. So I think in general, you get more out of playing against a better opponent. But you got to me, look at other factors, which I mentioned, that would contribute to it. It's really difficult, guys. I tell you, early in the year, when you play a team and they got a new coordinator, you got no tape. And so you're going back and look, well, what did he do at this school or that school? And you try to pull out a lot of stuff. And so that's something that is always intriguing. But you only got one game here with Signetti.
Let me ask you this too. So as a coach, would you rather have the lower level opponent to fine tune some things, or as a coach, would you rather have the opponent that's going to get your players' attention in the offseason? Would you rather have Ball State or would you rather have West Virginia?
Depends on the team. If I'm a really good program like an Alabama or Georgia, I want to play a better opponent because it gets my guys focused. I'm deep into the program. If I'm a growing program like Tennessee, I like to have Ball State because if you play, I mean, look, if Tennessee plays, a really good opponent week one, they may not win it. So, I mean, it comes down to what is the likelihood that you can win the game. I would like, for Tennessee, you're better off playing Ball State because you can work through some things. You've got some new pieces, but you know that you're going to win it even if you got some things to clean up. If you play a team that's really good, then all of a sudden you don't know. You may end up at 0-1. I mean, let me give you an example. LSU played Florida State. Now, LSU's in a different spot. They're rebuilding and whatnot. If they had played Southern week one, which they play this week, they win the game, even if they played sloppy and all of that. And, people are not going, ape about what happened. And then they probably are in a better position to take on Florida State this week. I'm not saying they'd win or not, but you follow me? So I think it does depend on the team. The better the team, the better the program, the better opponent I want to play early because I get my guys' attention all year long, all off season long. And I think that's the best way to test yourself. But if you don't have that type of program and you're trying to build it, I want to make sure that I get a win even though I'm trying to build it, because if you don't, then that becomes a problem. I'm going to tell you the worst scenario, though, is you play a bad team and you lose. That's, and you don't want to play a team that everybody thinks you're going to rip apart like North Carolina, and you're playing a really good team like Appalachian State. Now, they didn't just schedule that last year. Or let me give you another one. We talked about it on LandryFootball.com, but Virginia Tech, Brent Pry, first-year coach, they're playing an Old Dominion team that's bringing back a veteran squad that's really good. We picked it. We picked Old Dominion's going to flat. Virginia Tech was beaten, and most people said lay the points, and I said Old Dominion's going to win this game outright. And now that looks bad because it's not only that opponent you should beat, it's right up down the road, and it's like, in the reality, it's just we live in a world now. Everything that happens today is the greatest thing in the world, or it's the worst crisis in the world, and tomorrow we flip it.